Hello, I'm Frances from Homestead. And we're going to be building some grow boxes today. And we're going to be using as much materials that we find on the property as we can. And so far we found a lot of 4x4s. This is even a 4x6. This is a round post, but another 4x6. But these are just posts that we've either pulled out of the ground or found laying on the ground, or lots of different scenarios about how we found these pieces. And we're going to be making use of these 4x4s. And we're also going to be taking apart a woodshed that's here. The roof we're going to be using for the chicken coop and some of the walls to repair our chicken coop. But we're also going to be using some 2x4s that will be taken apart so that we can use it for the grow boxes. So I'm going to show you how that's going to go. So this is a small building here next to the shop. I think it was maybe a woodshed. We found lots of pieces of wood in here, old logs and things. There was also a lot of junk stored in here. There's some refrigerators, little mini fridges. There was a bunch of metal Tonka toys and gas tanks. Those things we've already taken to the dump. But as you can see, it's missing a wall here. And we don't really feel we have a need for this building in this location. And so we are going to do what they call cannibalize. We'll be taking this metal roof here and using on the chicken coop, and probably some of this siding we'll be using on the chicken coop. But inside here there's some 2x4 framing that we are going to make use of for our grow boxes. And so we are going to start taking that apart. So I am cutting the pieces I need for the grow boxes. Okay, so we've gotten some 2x4 pieces from the woodshed that we took apart. Now we need to cut it down to size and put the grow boxes together. Okay, that's the short 2x4s that I need. Now I'm going to cut the long ones. That's the last cut. My first grow box has all the pieces. Now I just need to put it together. So we've got all the pieces cut for our grow boxes, and we're making them in the Justin Rhodes style. Just a little variation because I can't afford the cedar planks that he was using, but I can afford some fir fencing planks. And they're only 6 foot long instead of 8, so I'll be doing 6 by 3 for my grow boxes. We were able to take apart the woodshed, and so that way I have some 2x4s to work with. Some of them are a little twisted, so it's a little sketchy how they go together, but they're still working. And then of course I have the 4x4s that we found on the property that I've cut to length. And the way Justin Rhodes made them was to make the 4 panels, the 2 long sides and then 2 ends, and then attach them to 4x4s. And that makes it easier for transporting. Since it's raining outside, this is a perfect day to make them in the shop. And then when we're ready to put them together on a clear day, it'll be easy to transport. So I've got all the pieces cut and we're ready to put it together. Okay, so we got a lot of the pieces out here for the grow boxes. The panels are mostly put together. We still have a few braces to put in between there. We're going to be setting it up over here in this area so that it'll get full sun in the morning. This is the east side of the house, and we're basically going to put grow boxes in this whole side yard here. This whole side yard is going to be grow boxes. It's very uneven, and we've been working on getting a lot of it leveled out. I'm thinking to start over here next to the house. It's getting afternoon shade, so I'm going to take it out, probably come out about 8 feet from the house, so that way it doesn't get a lot of shade. It'll still get full sun most of the day. Full sun is at least 6 to 8 hours of sunshine, and so having some shade in the late afternoon is going to be all right. We'll still get the full sun. We've got compost in the back of the pickup that we'll be emptying out into the top of the grow boxes. We're making hugelkultur, and so I've got to get all this filled in and leveled out so that the boxes will sit nice and steady. So we're going to get the boxes put together and hopefully filled up. So that's what we're going to be working on today. Now we have one of the grow boxes put together. We put some metal 1/2-inch mesh on the bottom to prevent critters from coming up underneath. And we're going to be filling it as a hugelkultur. So we'll be putting in like firewood type size pieces of wood. And then we'll put sticks and straws and then the compost on top of that. So it's the next morning. My battery ran out before I could show you the planting of my tomatoes. 2 grow boxes that I built was able to hold all of my tomatoes. I have a few little extra ones here. We'll see how they do in the middle. But these are my slicer tomatoes. I have a couple more over in that box. Those are my Roma tomatoes in the far box. The teeny tiny ones over here on the end are some red cherry tomatoes that I was able to get seeds from my brother and sister-in-law, that they gave me those. And so they got started a little bit later than the others, so they're quite a bit smaller. But they did come up very well. They're heirloom tomatoes from Baker Creek. They're a deep red cherry tomato, so I'm excited to see how they taste. These large ones are my yellow cherry tomatoes that I picked up from a nursery. I just love the yellow cherry tomatoes. They're just so sweet. Last year I could never get more than enough for me to just pick off the vine and eat right there. I had very few to be able to bring in. I did amend the tomatoes with some, it's a special tomato fertilizer. Now I also have in this quart jar some tailings that I've pulled off of my yellow cherry tomatoes. So I'm very excited to have a few more plants of those. So Jess in Roots and Refuge did a video on that, and I'm very excited. I had never learned about that. That's something that was not done back in the day when I was growing up. We never bought tomatoes. It was only what we could grow. I've learned a lot about gardening from my parents, as they grew up in the Depression and through the Second World War, and I grew up on a farm. And so there's a lot that I know from growing up on a farm. However, I did not know anything about pruning or propagating, so I'm trying it out. You see, I've pulled off the bottom leaves or branches from these tall cherry tomatoes, and I also have a couple tailings in the jar that I propagated. So that's something that I've learned from the YouTube channels that I watch. And so I'm very excited to try some new growing technique. And I'm hoping to get a much better product this year than last year. Last year, we had a lot of plants in our backyard, and a whole bed of strawberries and brassicas and squash and cucumbers, but so little produce. It just did not produce very well. So I spent the whole winter watching YouTube channels and doing my best to gain knowledge, because obviously what I had learned growing up wasn't sufficient to get me a really good product. It was beautiful plants, but very little produce. So I'm continuing to watch the YouTube channels this spring in hopes that I can learn some techniques and amendments that will help me get more product, because I love gardening, I love growing, planting, I even love weeding. And I love eating all of the beautiful, delicious vegetables that I can grow. But I live in a totally different area than where I grew up. So what I learned from my parents, what they did, or maybe the fact that it was so many years ago, there's a lot of new techniques, a lot of new ways to help the plants produce much better. And so I'm learning. And I'm always learning, and I'm always grateful to be learning. And so here we are with 2 full tall grow beds. So we got the last 2 grow boxes built and filled, and I've got the tomatillos in this grow box over here, and I'm also going to put the peppers in this box. I've got some poblanos, some jalapenos, and some green bell pepper. And the tomatoes on those far 2 boxes, I put some basil. I did some companion planting of basil. For me, picking tomatoes, I want them to be a deep red. Not bad for a second picking. So it's been a couple months since I built the grow beds and planted the bell peppers. And you can see the poblanas, the bell peppers, the jalapenos are growing beautifully. The bell peppers have gotten to a wonderful size, and it's abundance of bell peppers. And my beautiful yellow cherry tomatoes that I propagated are doing great. And I'm definitely going to continue propagating. It's a wonderful opportunity for enlarging the plants that I am producing. And I'm very grateful to constantly be learning new techniques for growing my garden, producing vegetables. And I'm very grateful that you are here joining me today. I can't wait to tell you all about my chickens. Please join me next week. Until we meet again.